Alright, I'm just going to start by saying this was a huge improvement over Season 1. So many of my complaints from Season 1 at least have been kind of addressed. The most obvious improvement is the narrative format. Season 1 just had a few predictable formats and reused them until the season was over. Here they experiment just a little, which is most obvious with Penny's development. The opening shot has Leonard and Penny returning from the date we saw them go on last season. Penny is noticeably insecure in the relationship, and she confides in Sheldon that's because of her perceived intelligence. Sheldon can't keep a secret, so after a bunch of hijinks, he tells Leonard. Leonard then tries to fix the situation in a way that just escalates Penny's insecurity, thus ending their chances of a relationship for now. What makes this episode feel better than Season 1 is that they actually utilize the cast a bit better. Instead of Leonard and Penny having drama and separately getting advice from Sheldon, they had Sheldon act as a more unique delivery system for resolution. Episode 3 is kind of a Penny solo episode with some Sheldon on the side. Penny isn't succeeding much as an actress, and when Sheldon introduces her to an MMO, she finds the exact escapism she needs. She invests all of her time and energy into a game she finds fulfilling, at least more so than normal life. She snaps out of it though when Howard tries to take advantage of her vulnerability for sex. This is the most relatable part of the show for me thus far. The reason this video took so long was because Elden Ring came out, and this is nowhere near my first brush with being addicted to a game. Sometimes when it feels like your effort isn't amounting to much, it's fun to focus on something where numbers go up. Or you get a cool cosmetic or a little badge. I grew up on games like League of Legends and Dark Souls, and I have 1,000 hours in RuneScape over a relatively short period of time. And speaking from experience, they approach the issue with a good bit of realism, even if it's a pretty simple episode. Our next Penny episode partners her up with Sheldon again, which is one of the better pairings in the show. And that's probably why there's more of this pairing than any other this season. Unfortunately, this episode does not highlight the duo's high points. Penny disrespects pretty simple rules in Sheldon's apartment, even after Sheldon warns her, basically just out of spite. Sheldon bans Penny from his apartment, so she calls his mom and he has to apologize. More picking on Sheldon using a vulnerability no one else in the group really has. Episode 11 introduced a cooler Leonard, and Leonard's really excited to meet him at first, at least until Penny starts going out with him. Not that it lasts long though, because according to the show, cool guys are bad to women, so. Next we return to the Penny-Sheldon pairing and it's much more wholesome. Penny is struggling to pay her rent, so Sheldon offers to lend her money with no pressure at all to pay him back. She still feels indebted to Sheldon, so she panics a bit and reveals that her ex-boyfriend still owes her $1,800 because she bailed him out of jail. Leonard brings the guys to confront him like in episode 1 with similar results. He still pays Penny, which allows her to pay back Sheldon. He doesn't say why though, meaning Penny doesn't know the guys helped her. Our next relevant episode has Leonard's mom visiting. She reveals everyone's insecurities, pushing Leonard and Penny to find comfort in each other's arms, while Sheldon develops a genuine relationship with her. Episode 19 is solely a Penny episode. A new girl moves into the building, and all the guys immediately obsess over her, making Penny a little jealous. Sheldon points out that Penny's behavior in the past hasn't been that different, but she goes to talk to her anyway. Penny warns her that the guys are pretty vulnerable, and the new girl responds by saying that she knows and she's intentionally taking advantage of them. Then Penny beats her up. I feel like this might be a direct response to people feeling like Penny was just tolerating the guys to use them in Season 1. Near the end of the season, we see Penny go out with the comic book store owner that the guys are friends with, leaving Leonard pretty uncomfortable. They ask Leonard for advice for a second date, and he intentionally tries to sabotage Stuart. He feels guilty about it, but it backfires anyway, so the date goes well. At least until Penny accidentally said Leonard's name while her and Stuart were making out. The finale has the guys going to the North Pole on a research expedition, leaving Penny noticeably sad to lose Leonard, even admitting she'd miss him. So that's that plot. Not too exciting, right? And it essentially covers all Penny episodes of the season, except for a couple Penny-Sheldon moments. And there's not too much to know there other than that they happened and that they're kind of cute. There is one more though, and it's a great reminder that this is still the Big Bang Theory. A Howard Penny episode. So Howard is being gross to Penny again, and she reacts appropriately for someone who feels like her protests have not been properly understood up to this point. And Howard is completely crushed by it. So much so that Penny ends up having to apologize. I know I don't have to explain why this episode is not great, but I want to mention a couple things anyway. It teaches sexually aggressive nerds that their behavior is justified by their poor social position, which is what they go for here. Howard elicits sympathy from Penny by saying his harassment is a way of coping with his lot in life. Penny really feels bad for Howard until he reads her kindness as romantic interest and goes in for a kiss, letting us know nothing has really changed other than now Penny has some sense of moral obligation toward Howard to tolerate his advances. I feel like this is another example of the writers changing a character based off criticism to Season 1. Or maybe it was always planned, I don't know. They couldn't change a character like Howard too much for a show that thrives off reruns like this. But they could act like there's a deeper layer to justify his misogyny. It doesn't really work, but Howard is written a lot better this season. He has an arc with Leslie Winkle where she uses him for sex in exchange for university resources, and he's devastated when she cuts it off. Even though he was in no way in a committed relationship, it still affects him so much where he's posting online about wanting to end it all. Luckily, Raj and Leonard are there to take him to Vegas and get him a prostitute, which of course completely cures his depression. His first episode in the spotlight has him showing off the Mars rover to a girl named Stephanie, but he crashes it. Leonard drives Stephanie home and they end up hooking up. Howard assumes that him and this girl are in a relationship, so he keeps leaving her messages asking for her to meet his family and stuff. This is like what I was saying before, where they're trying to add more character to him. When Howard learns that Leonard and Stephanie are together, he's obviously really upset. But it's all okay when Stephanie sets him up with one of her friends, because his horniness has to be stronger than his genuine human emotion, or it's not funny. That's Howard this season. They sprinkled some layers of desperation on top to cover up the gross behavior. I guess it's better than just letting him be unapologetically terrible, but it's still not enough. So Howard is out of the picture, but Stephanie's still around. Her next episode, she's still dating Leonard, and Sheldon is trying to strengthen the relationship. You see, Sheldon wants Leonard to date someone smart like Stephanie, so he sets up little schemes that actually end up kind of working, though not quite as intended. The last of the Stephanie trilogy has her move in with Leonard without really telling him. He is obviously shocked when he realizes that she did this without a conversation, so he goes to ask her to slow things down. But it's assumed they broke up because we never see her again. At the start of the season, Leonard had another boring episode with Leslie Winkle where it seems like they're going to get together, but then Sheldon ruins it. Not an interesting episode and belongs more in season 1. The Leonard-Leslie Winkle stuff is already tired, and inserting Sheldon in didn't change enough. They just had him be annoying, which I guess this season does do better on average. Outside of one basic episode, most of the Sheldon episodes stand out amongst the rest of the season. His friendship with Penny is kinda cute, but I've already talked about that. If we're focusing on the plots that solely highlight Sheldon, we have some variety. In one, he has a fangirl after a rude lecture he did. He was accepting of her at first, though not understanding her romantic intentions, but loving the compliments. That all fades when she becomes more controlling, not even letting him game. He breaks it off with her though when she says she wants to be credited in his work. Another girl Sheldon got close to this season was Leonard's mom. They bond over a shared sense of superiority, and I love the science. And there's a moment of legitimate connection between the two. She even seems to feel closer to Sheldon than she ever did with her husband, and Sheldon reciprocates it. It demonstrates there might be some semblance of romance under Sheldon's cold exterior. It really depends on how you want to define romance, I guess. The last Sheldon-centric arc has him trying to befriend recurring character Barry Kripke. He's the guy whose joke is that he has a stutter and he's mean. Real funny, right? Because people with speech impediments aren't usually mean, you're usually mean to them. Anyway, Sheldon only wanted to be his friend because he wrongly assumed Kripke could give him access to university resources. Sheldon tries to boil friend-making down to a science, and he does so relatively effectively, until Sheldon realizes Kripke can't help him like he thought. I think this moment definitely adds to the popular theory that Sheldon is coded autistic. It's him learning to adapt to social situations in his own way. If you look at this episode through that lens, it's almost worth watching. At least in the context of Sheldon learning to get along with people, which is kind of his arc. Also, there's an episode where Penny shoots Sheldon's spot with a paintball gun, and he's really upset about it. I haven't talked about Sheldon's spot because it's not funny, but it does come up a lot unfortunately, so here we are. It's basically just where he likes to sit, dumb joke. Oh yeah, last thing about Sheldon. In the finale, he says bazinga. Bazinga. Twice. So I haven't really mentioned Raj, but he's here. He has one episode in the spotlight where he finds a planet and gets really arrogant. Other than that, it's just offensive. Like on more than one occasion, they just make an offhand joke about him being gay or feminine. It's offensive and lazy writing, but what else am I supposed to expect from this show at this point? There's 2 episodes left. One where the guys take turns hitting on the girl from Firefly while Penny helps Sheldon with the file. The last is a bottle episode where the boys help Penny with a business, until they decide to return to their university jobs instead of working for free in crafts. So that covers everything. If season 1 was a 2 out of 10, then this is like a 3. I don't know, I'm bad at giving scores. But basically this is notably better but still not worth watching at all. So this season made a lot of changes. Different types of stories, more depth of character, as well as relatability of some of the nerd stuff, and our first bazinga. That being said, as I brought up multiple times, it feels like they only made these changes to get away from criticism. Not to say that's the worst thing in the world. It just feels a little insincere. Sometimes it works well, like season 2 Penny feels way more part of the group than before. But when I see it done with Howard to retroactively justify poor character decisions, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It's also stupid that Raj is still nothing more than a joke. Like they developed the creep before the guy whose only crimes are being foreign and bad with women. They didn't change Sheldon too much, they just got better at writing him, which I can't say about Leonard. All of his stories are just about girls. We got Penny, Stephanie, and Leslie this season. I just find it repetitive and annoying, but I usually don't love plots like this in shows. That's it. If anything looked weird, it's because I'm trying to keep from getting claimed. Sorry for the wait. I've been trying to move, and once I do, I'll find a more consistent schedule. I want to try to alternate this series with one-off videos, so the next upload will be on the British show People Just Do Nothing. Then I'll be back working on Season 3. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe and all that.